All right, guys. So you should have picked up a test review. You are going to get your quizzes back today so that you can kind of look at what mistakes you made, so that hopefully, if you make it on the quiz, you will not make it on the test. Okay? Alex, if you said you know if you did one of those on that time. All right. All right, so here is sort of the plan for today. Okay, we are going to review. We're going to do a little bit of it together, and then most of it you're going to do on your own. Okay, then I'm going to pass back your quizzes, give you a chance to look at them, see what mistakes you made, so that when you take your test, we don't repeat. Okay, so from this first page, I would like for you to try D, H, I, J, L, and 2A. Okay, we're just going to give them a shot, and then we'll go over the answers to those and see how you do. Huh? Did y'all have any today? Okay. But you'll be able to correct it instead. You would get half points back. So like, let's say you got an 80, you miss 20, then you'll get 10 back. What? I'll give you another minute to give those a shot, and then we'll go over them. Oops. All right, let's run through these tough questions and see how you did. For letter D, on the graph of g of x, 4 with a little minus means left side. What is the left side of 4 approaching? Very good. Negative infinity is correct. Letter H, I want x approach 0. Remember that applies to the middle function first. So on the graph of g, as I trace towards 0 on both sides, I'm approaching the origin that would also be 0. And then 0 is where I map on f. And f of 0 from both sides is approaching 1. Did you get it? Okay, next to that, we want x approach negative 10 on which graph first? G, so at negative 10, that'd be here. What's my y value? 2, then I want f of 2. And then when I go to the graph of f at 2, this is very important. You cannot hit the closed dot. remember where it maps you to has to be connected. So when I go to f of 2 and I see that my left and right sides don't match, what do I put for that? BME. Okay, so there were a couple of those that happened on your quiz that you'll get back soon. But remember where you map to, that has to be connected for you to pin. Okay, next one for J, we're doing x approach minus infinity. Which end is that, left or right? Left end on F. Okay, so I'm going to put check left end on F. And what is the left end of F's graph doing? It's going up to infinity. Then I would take infinity and plug that into G. And which end of the graph would that be? The right end. So I'm checking now the right end of G. And then if I look at the right end of G, it looks like it's curving off towards what particular value here? 3 is correct. Okay. So the letter for J should be 3. Good? All right, last one. L. X to infinity on G. What's that going to? 3. Then I go to F of 3. And when I go to F of 3, I see that I'm approaching the x-axis. What y value is that? 0. Very good. All right, for the next section, okay, you will have a cheat sheet that will have these definitions on it for your test. Okay, a lot of times we'll make it together, but I just haven't had time to copy it yet. So you'll get it that day, but it'll have pictures of each one. What should a removable discontinuity look like? Starts with a H. A hole, thank you. Okay, and not only can it be any hole, but the limits to both sides have to go to the same hole. So if you look at your notes, a removable discontinuity has to have the limit going to the hole on both sides. So there are 2 places that happens on this graph. Can you name them? Which ones? 8 and -7, yeah. Okay, so 8 and -7. Now let's talk about, I have a graph at 6, but that's not classified as a removable because both sides aren't going to the same value. How would I classify 6? Not a removable, but a jump. Very good. So a jump is a different kind of discontinuity. Okay, and a jump discontinuity is where your left and right limits exist, but they don't equal the same value. So 6 would be a jump. Okay, the third and final type is an infinite. And remember, an infinite is where at least one side is a vertical asymptote to infinity. So that happens for us here at what number? Where do we have a vertical asymptote at? -2, thank you. Very good already. Okay, but remember, all of them are discontinuities. Because remember, if you can't draw it without picking up your pencil, that's a discontinuity. Okay? All right, look at letter B there. Okay, you will get a cheat sheet with the definition of discontinuity or of continuity on it. But remember, it's 3 parts. This is the only thing that was not on your quiz, but that is on your test. Okay, so let's review what those parts are. Step number 1 is that your limits from the left and right have to equal the same thing. So I'm going to put limit from the left and limit from the right. Now we're approaching 8. So I'm going to draw my little line in here at 8. Remember, I'm going to cover up each side of the graph one at a time and see what I'm tracing towards. So 8 from the left, I'm approaching the hole at what height? -2. From the other side, if I cover up, also -2, which means that condition 1 is met, that my left and right limits are approaching the same height, -2. The second condition is that you have to have a defined y value. Okay, and remember that a defined y value means that your graph has a point at that spot. So if I come out to 8, I can't map to an open circle, but if I map to the closed circle, what is my y value? -4, very good. Okay, and then I'm going to write there, it has to be a closed dot. Okay, the third step is that your answer for the limit and your answer for the y value have to be the same if it's continuous. And in this case, does that condition end up being true? No. So third step would be that f of 8 does not equal the limit as x approaches 8. Okay, because my y value was a -4, but my limit was a 2. So therefore, f is not continuous at 8. Okay. Like I said, though, you will have a breakdown of those steps. But moreover, I would just think about if you can draw it without picking up your pencil, it's not continuous. If you could draw it without picking up your pencil, then it is continuous. Okay, go ahead and turn the page. Okay, take a look at number 4. Will you label on that graph, okay, any vertical, horizontal, or end behavior? Okay, when you do this for your quiz, okay, you have to make them limit statements. So, for example, if I wanted to do this right side, what would I put x approaching in my limit? Infinity is correct. And then f of x equal to the value that it's curving off to. So what y value is the right end of the graph curving off to? -2, very good. Okay, and that is a horizontal asymptote. Okay, let's do the left side. What is my x approaching for my limit? If I'm on the left end of the graph, -infinity. And then remember that if it's curving off towards a particular number, I'll put that number. But in this case, it's just going down forever. So what would I let that equal? -infinity. Okay, and then I'm going to put here, that is not an HA. Okay, it does describe what the end is doing, but it's not a horizontal asymptote if it's not actually curving off towards something specific. Okay, you all done? You just put it on my keyboard. Thank you. All right, then I have 2 vertical asymptotes. Okay, for vertical asymptotes, your x should approach where the asymptote is, and then your y should be what goes up or down. So here's what I mean by that. LIM. For this first one, what is my x value that I'm getting closer and closer and closer to? -1. But the ends of my graph are both going up to infinity. And then what type of asymptote is that? Vertical. Okay, for the down asymptote, I'm going to put LIM, x approach. Where's my other asymptote at? What number? 6. And what is f of x going to for my y values? -infinity. Very good. Okay, so when you get your quiz back, look at how you did on that overall. That was a pretty positive that most people got. All right, what I want you to do now is try this graph, do your limits, and then try these 3 questions right here. Okay. And then I'll give you all your quizzes back. Ooh. Okay, and then as we're kind of working, if you have a question off your quiz, please ask. That's no problem. So please ask about X approach 4 with a minus sign for change actually then. So you had the right answer. It was worth 4 points, you got 3. But for that 4th point, you're taking here, like this one is great. This is see the difference? Yeah. It should have been -5. -5 is correct. But you had it right. All right, try those bottom 3 on your review. We have lots of time to ask questions about this. Which one? So you plugged in to this part, but you had to also plug into this part, which we will do a question on that. But remember, X less than 8 is the left side, greater than 8 is the right side, and you have to check both. Now, you didn't have to do that for power. 3 is the break point top middle, and then 8 is the break point between the bottom. Yes. But remember that if it happens to multiply of the same number, then you're right, that it's a jump individually, but you're not doing G or H, you're doing 5. So if this one gives you 0 times 3, and that one gives you 0 times 2, then that one will still be 0. That makes sense? It's kind of like the pieces fit together like a puzzle, that if they happen to equal the same numbers, it's going to still exist even. All right, let's check those bottom answers. What did you get for A? For the first one right here. So X approach 6 on F. What is the graph of F doing as you get close to 6? It's going down to what? Negative infinity. Then I would do G of negative infinity, which means I'm checking the left end of G. And what is the left end of G doing? 1. Very good. Okay, for letter B, we're approaching 5. Remember, middle graph goes first. So I'm starting on G. As I get closer to 5, what is G's graph doing? Then I want positive infinity on F, which would be the left or right end? The right end. And what's the right end doing on F? -2. Okay, for the last one, your answer should have been -5. Did we get it? Okay, if you haven't, give it a try. Okay, before we go on to the next section. So for that one, you should have gotten -5. So your infinity on G takes you to -4. But then -4 on the F graph, you're down 5 boxes from the origin. Right there. Questions on that? Okay. Go ahead and turn the page. Okay, the next section, the limits to infinity, was kind of the worst on the quiz. So we're just going to run through a couple of these, and then I want you to try them. Raise your hand if you need help. Okay, remember, the 3 weirdos that could make these answers come out different are exponentials, absolute values, and square roots. So let's say that we're doing, let's do 8a and b, 9a and b, and 13. So 8, 9, 13. Look at those, give them a shot. They're either a Bobo, a Botan, or a Betsy. 8, 9, 13. Give them a shot. A and B. All right, number 8, Bobo, Botan, or Betsy? Okay, it should be a Betsy. You have an x3 and an x3. Then you divide those front numbers. Okay, 4x3 divided by 1x3 should go to 4. Now, if there's no weirdos, negative infinity is going to come out the same. I had a couple kids in first period that were like, but wait, if it's a negative infinity, okay, let's think about it. I take my negative infinity and I cube it. How does the top come out? Positive or negative? So -4 to a third power would stay negative, right? So you're like, wait, it's a -4. But then what happens on the bottom? I put my negative infinity into an x3. That one also comes out negative. And then what happens with the negatives? They're going to still cancel out and give you 4. So if there's not a weirdo, don't overthink it. You don't have to check the sign. They're going to match. So on that part of the quiz, it seems like a lot of people would put 4 and then say, oh, it's negative infinity. It's got to be -4. That's not true. Okay, it depends. But if there's no weirdos, they should match. Okay, let's go down to 9. Bobo, Botan, or Betsy? That is a Botan, which means that your limit is DNE. And then since I have no weirdos, I know that they're both DNE. But let's say for your test that you have to pick positive or negative infinity. For infinity, if I square it, how does the top come out? Positive or negative? Okay, what about a regular x on the bottom if I'm plugging in infinity? But it's regular infinity. So it'd be plus divided by plus, which would be positive infinity. Now let's check the left side. I take my negative infinity and I square it for the top. How does the top come out? Positive, but the bottom is just a regular x that it's going to come out negative, and a positive and a negative divide to a negative. Okay, but you only have to do that step if it's asking you to pick. If D and E is an answer choice, okay, then you can put D and E. Okay? All right, skip down to 13. Bobo, Botan, or Betsy for 13. Okay, Bobo, which means that they're both 0. Okay, notice I don't have any weirdos in that, which means that I don't have to check both sides to come out different. I know they're going to be the same. All right, go ahead and turn the page. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple to try off this page. Okay, let's do 14. Let's do 17. And let's do 18. So 14, 17, 18. Give those a shot. Okay, and as you're looking at your quiz, if you have any questions, just let me know. Okay, for 14, Bobo, Botan, or Betsy. Okay, it is a Betsy, very good. Now, the top of that is in factored form. And remember, if you get one in factored form, you just need to times the x's back together. Is that a 5x squared versus an x squared? Is that correct? The negative. Okay, good. On your quiz, okay, there are a lot of people that missed. If that's a minus x times 5x, that's a minus, which means you should have gotten -5. Then again, no weirdos. They should both be -5. Okay, let's go down to 17. As I go to infinity, is it a Bobo, a Botan, or a Betsy? Which one? It is a Bobo for 17. Because remember, e to the x, that's the biggest thing. That's the largest category. So that would go to 0. Now for 17b, you have a negative infinity on an e to the x. We know that fractions it. So the top is a 2x squared minus 4. But the bottom is a 1 over e to the x. And remember, a fraction to e to the x doesn't win, always loses, which means now it's bigger on top. So that would be a Botan, which is the end. Now, if you had to pick an infinity, give you a couple seconds, you're doing a negative infinity into an x squared. How would the top come out? Positive. What's e always, even if it's a fraction? Positive. So you divide two positives, you would get a positive. Okay, remember, e to the x is always positive. Okay? Last one like that, take a look at 18. Bobo, Botner, Betsy for A. The 5 to the x is exponential on top. That's a bottom. Okay, remember, exponential beats everybody. So bottom means it goes to either infinity or negative infinity. Okay, 5 to the x is always what sign? Positive, but on bottom, my x3 is negative. Divide a positive and a negative, you'd get a negative infinity. Okay, for the other side, as we're going to minus infinity, what happens to the 5 to the x? Which means now the top is smaller than the bottom. Does that make it a Bobo, a Botan, or a Betsy? Bobo goes to 0. Get the idea on that? Good? All right. Turn the page. We're going to do just a couple more from this section, but we're going to find one that has a square root and then one that has an absolute value. That way you've kind of been reminded of all the weirdos. So turn the page. Oh, wait, our square roots are down there at the bottom. Never mind. Let's do 21. So look at 21 for me, A and B. Okay, we have a square root of a 9x6. How big does that top count as if it's the square root of 9x6? x3, and with the square root of 9 would also go to a 3, right? So it's a 3x3 on top. What's the biggest thing on bottom? Negative 6x3. Remember, it doesn't have to be what's in the front. It has to be what's the biggest. So then is that a Bobo, a Botan, or Betsy? Betsy. So that's going to go to negative 3 over 6, which is negative a half. Now we're checking minus infinity. We know it's going to be a half. It's still going to be a Betsy. But the question is, should I keep it negative or switch it to a positive? Let's check the signs. A negative infinity. Now keep in mind, this isn't an x3. What is it before it's an x3? An x6. And will a 6 power keep the negative or lose it? Lose it. So the top is going to be a positive 3x3. But on the bottom, my negative infinity is going to go into my cubed. Will it keep it or lose it with an x3? Keep it, but then I times with the negative 6, it's going to lose it. So it'll be a positive 6x3, which will be a half instead of negative a half. But remember, they could both be the exact same answer. It's just sometimes that is. Okay? Then let's find an absolute value, and I'll give you some more time to work. Okay, let's do 24. Okay, first question. Bobo, Botan, or Betsy on 24? Okay, that is a Betsy. They're both x squareds. So I would take my 10 and my 12, I would divide it. 10 over 12 goes to 5 over 6. But then we have a weirdo, which means going to negative infinity, we have to just think about the signs. When I take my negative infinity and I absolute value it on top, what's going to happen to the 10? Positive or negative? Positive 10. Okay, then I'm going to take my negative infinity and I'm going to square it in the bottom. How will the 12 come out? Also positive, which means that for this one, I'm going to get 5/6 again, still positive. Even though it's a weirdo, the ends can come out exactly the same. Okay? All right. Then last one, let's hit 26 just because a lot of people had questions on that last class. So for 26, remember, if it's not a fraction, make it a fraction over 1. So if all of that stuff is compared to just a 1 on the bottom, is it a Bobo, a Botan, or a Betsy? Botan. And we know that Botans are DNE. But if you read the instructions for this section, it does say to consider if it's a plus or a minus infinity. So who is the biggest on the top? Remember, only the biggest really counts. And e to the x is always what sign? So this whole thing is going to be positive infinity. Now let's check negative infinity. Which term is going to get weird? E to the x. So now the top of this is x squared minus x3 plus 1 over e to the x. All of that is versus just a regular 1 on the bottom. Now, e to the x doesn't win for the top. Who is the next biggest thing? x3 versus a 1. Is it a Bobo, Botan, or Betsy? Still a Botan. But I'm going to use my x3 to determine the overall sign. So if it's a negative infinity into a cubed, will it keep it or lose it? Keep it, but then there's another negative that's going to make it lose it. So this would be DNE or positive infinity. Questions on that? Okay. Take some time, look through. I'd like for you to stay in the first half because we'll do some examples from the second half. So try to get through 1 through 26. Okay, work with people next to you. If it's a question about your quiz, ask me and let me know what you need help with. Test is on Wednesday, correct. And then also your quiz or your test review is a grade. It's not like extra credit. So make sure you do it. But the key will be on Schoology for you to check your work. And I'll actually put it on there right now if you want. Okay, but don't just copy it. That's not going to help you do well on your test. Okay, we want to learn stuff. Okay. Okay, so you don't have time. And you want to, but really it's just the X. And then I think, yeah, so like, let's check it out. So 2 times 5x is 10, 2 times 3 is 6. Negative x. Oh, why did I say 2? Yeah. Yeah, so then you'd have a minus 5x squared, which is what you should have there. That's okay. So for negative 6 from the left, figure on this whole, what's your limit? Which is that. And then same thing from the other side, right? So it'd be negative 2 for the first two, which means that your limit exists and is equal to that same number. Okay, so for an f of negative 6, you have to have a closed stop. Where's the closed stop? Okay, then my limit exists. It was negative 2. My y value exists. It's negative 3. Is it continuous or not? No, because they're supposed to be the same, so click not. And then for your reason, you would say the limit does exist, but it's not equal to F. Does that make sense? It exists, but it's not equal to X. Uh-huh. Okay, so let's check your sign. If I do a negative infinity into the top, how does it happen? Positive. Negative infinity into the bottom to the fourth. Positive, but then I'm gonna times it by that. You see what I'm saying? So when you plug it into the X4, and I lose it to the cross out here, so the 8 itself, then you put it in front of it. So that's just like a negative, does that make sense? So when you fraction the e to the X, okay, I see. So you saw it's a Benson, which means it's 5/2, right? If you're gonna plug a negative into the X on bottom, you have to do the same thing to that. And then both of their negatives will cross each other out. Oh, it's too hot in here. Yeah. It'd be 7/2. Because when you square root it, it's not square, doesn't it? Now it would just be like, yeah. So it goes 7. Oh, is that the old word where you still have to square? Y'all know where water is? You okay? For right now, I want you to just think for your test. And then when we do corrections, I might let y'all correct some quiz. But I would say for right now, I want you to focus on, just look at what the mistakes are and study that. Because we don't really have a lot of time to. Yeah, because at 5, you see how you're so off that, but you have to. Maybe look at it. Your left side is -6, right side is -2, this time is yeah, perfect. How are we doing? Doing okay? You doing okay? All right. Hey, you were able to get out early? Oh, nice. Okay. Sorry, I'm so in plastic, but I just want to make sure everything is okay. I think about have the date, but I would say call my mom and see if you can just go there. I don't know what time we figure out. I don't even know. Or call my mom and just find out what's going on. Because I don't know if Lindsay and them are to the hospital yet, but I assume when she goes to them. You ever, Lindsay's walked her. Yeah. Just check the group text, I sent it to her today. So, but she's probably having a baby today or tomorrow. I think they're going to the hospital like. No, we're still, she still wants to do it. She doesn't want checks for to be this week. So Lindsay and Ken won't be there, but, and actually now Hillary and Jeff are, because I guess their thoughts died. So it's just been busy. But as far as I know, the last thing since my class started
if that was me, and still wants us to be sheltered. But Lindsay and Ken will be at the hospital until we bless for happy. I think probably my mom, that's why I told you to call her. You just see before you make it all the way out to the hospital. So just call my mom, double check that she's going over to Lindsay's, and if she is, then that's the question. Okay. All right. Okay, all right, I love you, bye. I would say maybe after the test. So I want you to have it back to look at the mistakes and hopefully not make them. Okay. That's perfect. All right. Yeah. So remember, sign is its own word. So sign is the smallest. Yeah. So sin x compared to a 5x, 5x. Oh, okay. Because remember, it's not like sine or 3x, it's sine of 3x, so it fits into that smallest term. Uh-huh. All right, just to make the little recording that I'm making for our absent people not be a full hour and a half long, let's just work a couple questions at the end, and then you have the rest of class to learn, okay? So let's pick up at 27, okay, which is right where we left off. Okay, if you are approaching -5, is that the break point? What is the break point number? 0. So if I'm doing -5, that cleanly fits into which piece of the piecewise is -5 and x less than 0, greater than 0, or equal to 0. Then you only plug in to the top piece. So it'd be 3 times -5 plus 2. That'd be -15 plus 2, which is -13. Okay, if it's not a break point, you're not plugging into multiple pieces. Okay, for letter B, I'm doing pi thirds. What category does that fit in? Is it an x less than 0, equal to 0, or greater than 0? Yep, so we're plugging in only to the bottom. So we'd have the cosine of pi thirds, and then we're gonna add 3. Now, pi thirds is which finger on your hand? So it's 0, pi 6, pi fourths, pi thirds, fold it down. And then remember, cosine's up. How many's up there? 1, then it'd be √1/2. And what is that the same as? Square root of 1 is still 1/2. And 1/2 plus 3 would be 3.5. Okay, remember, you're only plugging into multiple pieces if you're at the break point, which brings us to C. If I'm doing x approach 0 and 0 is the break point, the left limit comes from less than 0. The right limit comes from greater than 0. So which pieces am I plugging into? Top, middle, or bottom? Top and bottom. So write it out. X approach 0 from the left and x approach 0 from the right. But you have to check both because you're at the break point. So for my left side, it'd be 3 times 0 plus 2. That'd be 0 plus 2, which is 2. 0 from the right will be the cosine of 0 plus 3. Which one is your 0 finger? Pinky, very good. Cosine's your fingers on top. How many are there? 4. So then remember, you square root it, put it over 2. What's the square root of 4? 2. 2 over 2 is 1. So that's 1 plus 3, which is 4. So my left side is 2. My right side is 4. What does that make my limit? DNE, very good. Okay, then if the limit doesn't exist, look at your instructions. Okay, it says explain why using limits. Some of y'all on your quiz, not really this class as much, but just put left equals 2, right equals 4. Okay, you do have to use the little LIM, X approach, that crap. Okay, last one there, we want f of 0. That has to be a y value or a closed dot on the graph. And where would my closed dot be? What number? 5. Very good. Okay, remember that if you have your x equal to as its own piece, that's like this point that would be by itself. Okay? Go ahead and turn the page. We'll do maybe 2 more questions. Let's try 29. Let's do A. Okay, you are asked to determine whether it's continuous and use the definition of continuity. So, label part I. Condition number 1 for it to be continuous is that the left and right side limits have to be the same. So, I'm going to write out LIM, x approach 1 from the left. Then LIM, x approach 1 from the right. Okay, which piece will I plug into for the left limit for 1? Top, middle, or bottom? Okay, less than 1 is the left limit. That would be the top. So you'll do 1 minus 4, square it, plus 1 to it. 1 minus 4 is -3. Remember, parentheses first, follow PEMDAS. Then exponent, then add. So 1 minus 4 is -3. What is that squared? -3 times -3 would be +9 plus 1 is 10. So my left side limit is 10. What piece will be the greater than 1's part? Top, middle, or bottom? Middle. So then I'll do 1 plus 9, which is also 10. So if your left and rights match, you go on to the second condition, which means that one of your pieces has to give you an answer for equal to 0. So not equal to 0, equal to 1. So which piece, the answer from the top or the answer from the middle, has the equal to on the 1? Middle. And what did that answer come out to be? 10. So I don't have to refigure it out. Okay, but I'm looking for an equal to on my x of 1. Okay, then the third one is that those had to match. Do they? My limit came out to 10, my y value came out to 10, so I just have to state that f of 1 and the limit as x approaches 1 did come out the same. Therefore, yes, f is continuous. Okay. Now, I'm not going to do the second part, but I do want to fix the piecewise. So if you'll look, this second bin is for x's greater than 1 and less than 4. The bottom piece should be a greater than. So will you flip that to open the other way? You can't have 2 less thans on 4. So this one should go this way. Okay, but you're going to work it out the exact same way. Follow the pieces of continuity and then decide yes or no for continuous. All right, last question we're going to do together today is 32. Okay, in the last section, you are asked to find the value of the missing constant. That's going to make it be continuous. And so remember, to make it be continuous, you're going to set the sides equal, plug in the breakpoint. So I'm going to write those steps here. Set left equal to right. Then plug in the BP. Okay, which stands for breakpoint. So go ahead and do that for me on 32. So I'm going to let left equal right. So k squared minus 6x needs to equal 2kx. And then specifically that needs to happen when my x is 2. So I would plug that in to my equation. So now it's k squared minus 6 times 2 equal to 2k times 2. On the left side, what's the 6 times 2 going to give me? Well, and then on the other side, 2k times 2 would be 4k. Okay, from this point, you know you have to factor to get multiple answers because it's not a regular k, it's a k squared. And you can't factor with k's on both sides. So remember, we want to take this 4k, bring it over so that all your terms are on the same side, and then we'll do the little AC chart from there. So my 4k is going to subtract across to the other side. Okay, make sure that you do want to keep your terms in ABC order for your AC chart. So it would be a k squared minus a 4k minus 12. And then we're going to factor. So k squared minus 4k minus 12. A, B, C. I need numbers that will multiply to a times c, and that will add or subtract to your basement b. Yeah, okay, good. So negative 12 on top, and then 4 on bottom. And then typically you'd list all your partners, but if you happen to know which ones they are, you don't have to. So 1 and 12, 2 and 6, or 3. But in order for them to be 4 apart, I'd have to pick 2 and 6. Now, when I place my negative, I want to place it so that my 4 stays negative, so I'd put it on the 6th side. Now, your answers, bless you, are not positive 2 and 6. That's what the factors are. So if I have a k with a plus 2 and a k with a minus 6, my actual answer should be the reverse signs of those. So negative 2 is my first answer. 6 would be your second answer. Questions on that? All right, and then make sure if it's a k squared, you should get 2 answers for a quadratic equation. Okay, if it's a regular k, you're just going to get 1, but k squared, you should get 2. Okay? All right, good job. You still have about 30 minutes. Let me know if you need help. I love to help. Okay, and let me know if you have questions off your quiz.